And it's nothing original with vertical business models. Many of our biggest Swedish brands have been doing pretty good with that, like IKEA or H&M,
But not in bikes.
In bikes, it's been tougher for some reason. And I thought, why would it be tougher in bikes? And I figured that if we can produce a couple of cool and good frames, smart enough to build many types of bikes on them locally, that could work. But it was kind of an idea, and I could not seem to figure out how to put it to work before 2013. So.
Okay, thank you, Tobias. Welcome to the podcast. Pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
We are here in AndTheRevolution store here in Stockholm. How long have you been here for?
All right, so it's we got the space in 2012. We opened up 2013 in June.
Okay,
so it's about 8 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
I bet that's gone quick.
Both.
Yeah,
Quite a struggle, but quick in the sense that 8 years flies, when you're working hard. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Does that mean the business started back then, 8 years ago? Has it been going for 8 years, or did you have a business before taking this retail space?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, because I think it started sometimes as an idea back in 2005. Here comes the mailman. 1 second.
Yeah, do it. So you were explaining you had the idea for the business before you opened this store.
Yeah, because I started in the bike business in 95.
Okay.
So I've been I've been in the business for quite a while, and I had a shop up in Umeå for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I had bike messenger like a delivery messenger business up in Umeå. Started in 93. So we've been in the bike business for a long time then, and always during this long period of doing retail and selling bikes, in many ways, I felt I needed to really develop the idea to make it optimal, value creating for customers. And so I started sketching out on this, I think back in 2004, 2005. In my sketchbooks, I have these drawings and ideas about building bikes locally and trying to, kind of get my head around what was the whole point of it. So
what was the big idea then?
To create massive value for customers in a way where it actually was beneficial for a business as well. Because you can create a huge amount of value for a customer, but you will probably make no money if you're going to build the bikes in Sweden with everything that.
Yeah, in the normal way, you would buy the bikes from a manufacturer with your margin, and if you put the or you go the extra mile, then it starts to eat into those margins, and then you have no profit left.
It's a basic one-on-one business. Like you have this distribution models where producers, distributors, brands, and everyone is eating up on the margin, and in the end, the customer doesn't get the value. I felt, doesn't get the value that she needs.
Yeah.
So I felt, all right, how can we do this better? And I started developing this kind of business model it's more a business model actually than a product. So it's like a value creation model in a way. Yeah.
Because you're sourcing and building the bike parts yourself. From it, what do you call that? It's vertical integration, or you're the whole supply chain you are responsible for.
That's true. The whole vertical, and it's nothing original with vertical business models. Many of our biggest Swedish brands have been doing pretty good with that, like IKEA or H&M, and
But not in bikes.
In bikes, it's been tougher for some reason, and I thought, why would it be tougher in bikes? And I figured that if we can produce a couple of cool and good frames, smart enough to build many types of bikes on them locally, that could work. But it was kind of an idea, and I could not seem to figure out how to put it to work before 2013. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you made the brave step of opening up a store. Did you get funding for that, or were you savings, or how did you?
Yeah, I had some funding. It's the whole funding part is fun because I have a few of my really old friends back from Umeå actually moved here before me. People that I actually went to kindergarten with. Okay. So yeah, we have quite a big Umeå crew here.
All right, and friends from kindergarten tend to be good friends.
Yeah, or stupid enough. Stupid enough to be hanging around. So they pitched in, actually. They pitched in for this to be happening, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that got you going. And then on Östergarten here on Södermalm, really in one of the most innovative parts of town, you're somewhat of an icon on the street, I think. I mean, it's people are always talking about the store to me, and you see people zooming around on your bikes all the time. How did you get the initial recognition? How did you get the business going? Like the first orders, what tips did you come up with?
Well, I really did not have much of a plan for the communication of the brand, or I didn't have any money to do advertising. Even though I've been actually working in advertising and the communications myself for a couple of years prior to that, that was the stuff that I concentrated on the least. Okay. So we did what everyone was doing 2013. We had an Instagram account. Instagram was kind of cool. We post pictures of people with the bikes that they just purchased and wrote some funny, catchy little copy.
Yeah.
And we did some Facebook ads, and that's it. Basically, we had this idea that this is such a unique concept that let's see how it flies by itself.
Yeah. Do you remember the first bike sale?
Well,
was it a family member?
I cannot remember the first one, actually. I see pictures in my head of one of my first 50 customers.
Right.
They come in here regularly still.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And no, it was amazing to see how it took off.
Yeah.
It was slow. It wasn't like a boom or anything. It's been a very, very slow and steady process, actually.
Yeah. And how, you mentioned Instagram from a marketing perspective, but how's digital or the internet featured in the evolution of the business over the last 8 years for you?
Well, I can't say we have developed much new styles of marketing. I mean, to be totally honest, I'm so focused on the value creation on a street level. You know, like every single meeting with the customer is where it's happening. It's not in my communication. It's not like we're sitting down trying to figure out a good scheme. You know, we try to encourage our customers to tell their friends. We have made stickers called not ambassador but ambassador, ATR in the end.
Okay, nice.
Goofy stuff just to make people.
That's like street marketing, but it's more impactful. People will remember that,
I guess, and it suits our personality. It suits my personality. I don't see myself doing a strategic Facebook blah 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 market. Yeah. I'm not strategic enough.
Do you think that circles back round to the fact that you do control the supply chain and you have ultimate confidence in the materials, the components of the bike, so you just feel like, okay, you're giving the customer the best thing you could possibly give them. So if they tell people, there's nothing else you could do better than that, to make people talk about the bikes.
Yeah, and I think that if you have the focus on the value that you are creating, any kind of brand, whatever you're selling, I think that's a pretty good start. And then everything you can add stuff. I mean, we could, if we had a bigger plan, we do have a little bigger plan, but we haven't really gone up to open up our second and third store yet, but it's in the plan.
In the vision.
It's in the
vision board.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that we never have, like I said, excess products, like a bike frame we need to get rid of, so we need to discount 50% or anything. we always have the right bike for every person, so we don't really need to work with that kind of.
And customization, I guess, that's part of the value creation that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So how are the bikes customized typically for someone coming in the store today, and what would my options be?
Well, your options are basically limitless. You want to ride in the city and you want to have gears or no gears, and the rest is pretty much up to you. But we have to narrow it down because people feel overwhelmed by all the alternatives. If you have too many alternatives, people get so confused that it actually doesn't benefit either them or us.
I call that browsing fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to limit it down, and I think we have a pretty good level right now.
You found a sweet spot where an element of customization meets scalability, and that's where the margin and profit is, I guess, and the growth.
Yeah, I mean, it's less of a margin thing. It's more of making the decision for the customer easy and logical. I mean, if it's too much browsing, too many options, then we are not creating value. We're just creating confusion.
Yes, but you also need scale, volume. So you can't spend a whole week making one bike for a customer. There has to be an element of standardization somewhere.
Yeah, sure. So that's we have basically 2 or 3 different frames that we can build everything from 1 speed to an electric bike for 4,000 euros. So we have a pretty big range. But
did you get that right from the start, or that sweet spot I mentioned, or did it take time?
Yeah, it takes time and it changes all the time. So you never get, well, in my experience, you never get anything right from the start.
Sure.
You always have to tinker, and if you don't love the tinkering, then you should do something else, because it's that's where the love is, I think.
Is there any horror stories or anything that in the past you've thought, oh, we could add this to a bike, or we should give the customer this option for the bike, and then it ended up being like, that didn't work?
Probably. But I also have a really weak memory.
You only remember the good stuff.
Yeah, I remember the good stuff, and I was always looking ahead, so I could probably figure that. But I have sold some bikes that have come back to me because the technical solution for what I was wanting to do wasn't good enough.
Okay.
So then I had to take that option off.
Customer feedback.
Yeah. So it's like very direct feedback, and that's the beauty of being street level like this. I mean, you can do this with digital marketing as well. You can get instant feedback. Well, it's even easier, I guess, with digital marketing or product sales.
Sure.
But for us, it's the whole interaction is so valuable. That's how we create this value that we struggle.
Yeah, and you have a web store, I guess. How does that feature in the customer experience, do you think?
Because we are, from the beginning, we are like an omni-channel setup, because the whole buying process takes place inside of a shopping platform, the WooCommerce platform to be more exact. And we built it so you can configure your bike, you can make all the choices for colors and whatever inside that platform. You make the order. Doesn't matter if you're in the shop or if you're doing it by a kitchen table. So it's the same process.
Yeah.
So we are already very digital, but we don't focus on selling the bikes online because we still want to have the meeting with the people.
Right.
So we do sell like a few bikes every year online to people we never see, and they live in
just click.
Yeah. We sell bike to Los Angeles. We have sold bikes to Germany, Switzerland, Spain. Yeah.
Amazing to get those orders come through on a high value item.
Yeah.
But as you say, the critical part of it is the customization, the personal touch.
Yeah, that's I feel it's such an important part, because the human aspect, the human integration. I mean, if you create a space like this, it's because you love to interact with people.
Yeah,
and that is actually one of my personal passion. And I do think it's hard to be successful if you don't work in line with your personal passions and strengths, because otherwise you'll just be chasing some other people's.
Really good piece of advice. So what you're saying is stick to what you're good at, double down on it.
Sure.
And in your case, it is more of the physical experience than the online experience.
Yeah.
But you respect the necessity to have that touch point online. But maybe you don't have other partners are active in the business. So it could have been in a different life. You may have had a partner who was maybe more digitally savvy or a developer or something, and then they could have spent the last 8 years building the world's best bike shop online.
Probably.
But
I mean, that can still happen because we have a pretty good platform to start building the best digital urban bike shop online if you want to. I mean,
you have the platform,
we have. But I really want to kind of focus on the whole experience of meeting with the people, because when you focus on that specific thing, then you actually start creating value on a whole different level. It's all right. People, they want to buy a bike and they browse through stores, and sometimes they make the choice to go with us, and sometimes they go with some of our colleagues around the block, because we have a huge community in this area. We have probably 5 excellent bike shops.
Wow.
If you walk 250 meters from here.
Wow.
So it's not like we are the only one.
Okay, but they're not all making the bikes.
No one is
You're
making
the
the
only
bikes.
one making the bike.
No,
you're the only one crazy enough to make your own bike.
Well, some of the shops do it as well, but this is our single product.
Yes.
We don't sell other brands really.
Right.
So it's. But what I meant is that in that competition, the aspect of having people coming into our space and being a part of our brand as an ambassador or as just a customer or a browser, it's such an important and such a great experience, and that's what I give. But that's why every morning I come here and I feel happy to just unlock the door and
I think because the purchase price of a bike is quite high, I guess that gives you the air cover to maybe have that approach too. I know it's in your DNA to be customer centric, but it's harder for a retailer with a lower price point, average price point on a product, to give that personal touch. So
sure,
the benefit of being in the bike industry or a product that is high value means you can offer that additional service. But
I do believe that I feel that when I go into my local supermarket, there are always the local supermarket, and then it's one of those that are a little bit more, how I would say, more present in their interactions with the customers.
That's so true.
And I might come out there with a little lollipop, or with 1,000 kroners in a huge grocery bag. But I mean, so that interaction is still there. It doesn't really matter how expensive the product is. But I know what you're saying. But I would like to challenge it, because I feel that I cannot see how a business, online or physical, could afford not to invest in that relationship and having that spark in your meeting with people, because it's otherwise what shopping will become is just pure logistics.
Right.
And I mean, the logistic part online that's dialed in. You don't need much of a spark, but still it's like, if retail is going to survive and grow and be prosperous, you need to really zone in on why would people come into your shop anyway.
I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of emphasis on digital growth and communication and Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads, but it still doesn't come anywhere near the effects of having a great product and a great service. That's been the same for 200, 300 years.
Exactly. I mean, we are people, so it's like whenever you have a meeting with someone, you know instantly was this a real meeting? Was this something authentic?
Yeah.
What did I learn something from this conversation, or was it just mechanical?
Yes.
You can tell, I guess, pretty soon.
And when you're when you have that vision, you are you're also able to think holistically about that relationship. So you're not just thinking, okay, I got to get some money out of this person right now while they're in the shop. You're not thinking anything like that. That would be a bad store. You're thinking, okay, this customer might not buy from me for 5 years down the road. That might be the time they actually buy something, or how can I help them? I'm sure you get lots of people coming in here looking for help with their bike, maybe a puncture or something, and then you're just like, sure, here's the pump, fix it. And then that starts the relationship, and you have that wide view on when that relationship, how it may develop. I think it's refreshing to touch back onto these things because there is so much emphasis going on digital. But the tried and tested metric for growth is that customer service, and caring about your customers and building from there.
So how you're going to scale that process is how do you scale a culture in a company to make that all the employees and all the people carry that culture, and that's this, I think, the single most challenging and important thing. So if I would zone in on something, it's that kind of culture creation, but also it's in relation, it's together with the customers. So we have a pretty good example from this summer. I wasn't working. I was far away on a small island in Finland.
Okay.
And we have one of the guy who was working here. He was by himself in the shop, and it was a super busy day. A guy comes in. He want to buy a bicycle, a kid's bike, and we actually have a partnership with an Austrian brand called Voom, which is excellent lightweight kids bikes. And the guy wants it built up right away, so he could take it with him because he was going to his cabin, of course.
Okay.
And so Morgan, who was working, he had to do this, but at the time it was so many people coming in all the time, so he had a trouble keeping up. But then one of the customers jumps in to help one of the other customers to change a tire or whatever it was, and then a third customer jumps in. So it's kind of like, who's working here anyway? And someone asked for a cup of coffee, and a third customer was like, "Oh, I can go make the coffee." So it was like Morgan was working, but he had the resource of another 3 people, customers, helping each other. And the most beautiful thing was that the guy who buying the kid's bike wrote the post on LinkedIn.
Wow.
About this experience, and I saw it, and it was kind of tears in my eyes.
Because you were like, you had nothing to do with it. The culture had radiated beyond you.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Amazing story. Yeah, that's a moment to be proud of.
I was very proud.
Yeah, and to think that, that's I think a mark of achievement. You've got somewhere when it goes beyond you, and you see these things happening, and you're not actually there. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. So shout out to HR customers and to Morgan.
And to Morgan, love that name, Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan he's a star.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next 8 years. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on how the digital landscape or how the store will evolve, or do you have a plan, or you don't seem like somebody that probably has a plan?
Well, I have 2 parts of myself. One who is doing a lot of planning and making budgets and trying to raise money, and we
expand.
I really have an ambition to open up more shops and to spread this kind of value in more parts of the city or other cities. But also at the moment, because we had such a pretty intense year, I'd like to focus to become even better right here. So it's right now I'm very much in between. I really do like to make plans, but speaking of digital, I think it is just to improve the platform, to make it easier for people online to make their choices, because we need to have more information. Mm-hmm. People need information to make choices, and right now it's like very much like this handlebar or that handlebar.
Yeah.
How many speeds
you want? So you could streamline the process a bit more.
Yeah. We should add information that where it's necessary. Maybe going a little bit more towards moving pictures, mm-hmm. like visuals of complete bikes in video.
Like tuitions, maybe FAQ section in video format, so that the questions you get here every day, 10 times a day, you can have them answered in video, and people will discover that themselves, hopefully.
Definitely. And I think video first is something that I think you're pretty good at.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter.
Yeah, so video first is definitely, I feel I have a lot to learn from you and from that whole thing, because I can feel myself clicking on videos before pictures all the time.
Yeah, we can feel ourselves doing it, and then we go to work and think, whoa, why aren't we doing more of this?
Exactly.
People aren't reading anymore like they were. And, you know, it's not just a marketing initiative. Of course, you know, it's a great way to demonstrate your values in video format. It's quicker. But also, what are the bottlenecks in the business that could be improved with video content? Employer branding, for example. If you were expanding and wanted to attract people with like-minded values to the company, then, you know, you've got to go video first with that story. There's no point putting a job ad out, you know, with 400 words on it. Nobody's going to read that, but they are going to watch a 45-second video.
It's more entertaining, and I think it's because, again, when you're creating value, I mean, you're not only creating value, like, this is how you do it, like, it's not like that. It's more like creating value as entertaining.
Yeah.
So retailtainment, if you're talking about that term,
sure,
it's very much video first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only video first, because pictures are beautiful, but...
Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing for the future that you're going to try and get more involved in. Is there anything else that's on your mind that people can think about for the next few years, like how to succeed?
Well, hard to be general, because I'm very specific with what I'm doing. But when you say what's on my mind, it's kind of is the easiest way for me is to put I want to create a better space in ATR for people's mind.
Okay,
so
explain.
Mind in a way where we actually start to creating even more value for people. And so this as soon as the COVID thing has been a little bit dealt with, so we can start having more people in the shop, we will actually open up one morning each week, meditation sitting.
Excellent.
For our customers.
Wow.
Maybe like 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have a seat here. Maybe 10, 20 people can sit together and meditate.
Amazing. You have plenty of room here for that. So
yeah. And the whole, it probably sounds weird, but for me, meditation has been such a big part of my own personal development. And I am a little bit of a preacher, I know. so we're going to have this space as a meeting for that one morning each week. And
is that for customers or for anybody?
It will be for anybody, but customers, we will reach out to them first, and probably friends and people who haven't tried, because it's not going to be very in-depth. It's obviously, I'm not a meditation teacher, even though I've been doing it for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's more of getting the first glimpse of something that will create humongous value for them.
Yes.
In the long term. But it's so in the value creation, that's where I'm trying to create value.
That's seriously upstream, dude. That is seriously upstream.
It is, but I mean, that's just you cannot fight the process that you have inside you. You need to go with that flow, I feel. Yeah. And if my flow would be to figure out the best LinkedIn campaign, I would probably do that too.
But you're, like you say, you're making the business work with your strengths, and your strengths work with the business. They're like in harmony. I think that's maybe part of getting to our sort of age in our 40s. You sort of have that inner balance, I guess. You start to find balance in what you're good at and what you're not, and you're less likely to do stuff that you regret doing a year later down the road. So,
I feel you're doing it too.
Yeah,
I feel you're doing the same thing. You're actually pivoting yourself as we speak.
On the chair.
Yeah. No, I mean with the whole video and the podding and so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pushing myself and my customers to really think about digital and how it's moving so fast. So what worked 5 years ago isn't going to work in the next 5 years. There's a thing I call Instagram dependency syndrome. which I coined and invented. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but it causes creative block because people grew up on Instagram, and Instagram is about perfection, content perfection. You take 100 pictures of that avocado sandwich and then you post it. You take all morning to do it. It's not practical. So when we start to come to other platforms, they carry that perfection with them into the other platforms, and then they just hit a block, and they can't do LinkedIn, they can't do YouTube, because they cannot bridge that perfection gap. So Instagram dependency syndrome is a problem that I see out there. But yeah, you're right. I'm having to innovate and to find new ways of communicating. And one of the things I love about podcasting, video podcasting specifically, is that it's conversational, and that's something we've been doing since the age of 2, 3.
Conversations are pretty.
and we all have our 10,000 hours in conversational experience. At least if you're probably 25, you should have by then. So we're all ready to talk, and the world needs conversation right now, particularly people from different backgrounds and ideas coming together and talking. So what I like about podcasting is how can that help any organization or any mission really, in a way of educating and entertaining an audience or a community.
But it's very authentic that you're doing this because you are in love with the moving format. And I've seen your movies, and I've seen how many hours you put into teaching yourself how to edit and film and lighting and everything. So it's authentic.
Right.
You're doing it because you love it.
Yes.
And you want to show other people to do it because you want them to start loving it because it's make their own authentic brand stand out. Because the Instagram, I think it's interesting because I have that problem myself. I don't want to shoot a little movie because it's so bad and blah blah blah, and I don't feel that it creates the value for the brand. But it's just an error. It's a block.
Right.
It doesn't matter what because people will see what they see and they will feel something.
Yes, and a conversation is so much more meaningful and can be used in all kinds of ways. But at least to mention it lasts forever. If you put it online, it's potentially there for 1,000 years or more. Your future generations are going to be able to look back on this, even if it's just your own great grandchildren looking back on this conversation. It'd be pretty cool for them to do. But of course, we want it to inspire and help people wherever possible. And it is an upstream initiative, like we talked about, but only good things can come from conversation, I think, and that's the good thing. It's going to take us all morning to do this podcast. By the time I set it up, talk, take it apart. But like I said, some people spend all morning taking an Instagram picture of an avocado sandwich. This is going to offer a lot more value for the business. So
probably
podcasting could be something. Also, then video podcasting for ATR in the future. Certainly, conversations happen in businesses anyway. So.
That is where it's at.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts or tips on, you're a seasoned, I don't want to call you retailer because that doesn't sound very, very good. I mean, you do retail, but you're a seasoned store owner, community builder, and obviously bike engineer. Any top tips for maybe people 20 years younger than us right now looking to start a business, whether it be building bikes or something?
Well, I'm always focused on the value creation. If you can't seem to add value for someone, then you need to rethink what you're doing. And I think people sometimes they're grabbing stuff outside of themselves too much instead of grabbing the stuff that they are already really good at and showing a little bit more of themselves, being vulnerable and personal or authentic. And I cannot for me that's where the whole thing goes down. And it doesn't matter if it's a one-man business or if it's 100 people in the company. It's just
right.
That's where I feel we can create value and be people
with a good sprinkle of patience.
Yeah, well,
because it takes time, right?
Yeah,
there's no quick wins with this stuff.
grit is one of the key ingredients for doing business anyway. So, but that is something you will learn also. So
yeah, you've got to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I wish you all the best for the future, and maybe we'll do a podcast in a year again from now and see where we are.
Yeah,
Thanks,
pleasure.
man. Good to see you. Thanks.
Ciao.
Cheers.